Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at FlyWoo's latest release. I know, I'm a little bit tardy. These have been out for actually quite a while, but my slower process can sometimes yield some results that are very important. But we'll be looking at the 2-inch size as well as the 2.5-inch size 4S, 3S, running the same flight controllers, running the same motors. It's just really a different frame, and one of the things they tout is that you can remove the 4 screws from the top, and you can pull the top plate along with the VTX out of one and put it into another. I don't know how interesting that really is, because I don't get that many questions about that sort of thing. So I would really like to know, with the rarity here, at least in the US, of 04s, or if you're running other video systems, is transferring from one to another, and when you kind of have to stick to the same manufacturer, is that an important aspect to what you think about when you comes to buying quads? And they do come in several different versions. They've got light versions you can see with their own special heat sink in there. It does come in HDZero as well, but oddly enough, I didn't see on the website where there was any walk snail or the beta FPV new P1. So it looks like 04 and HDZero, you could buy it without anything and add whatever you want as well. But we're going to skip most of my typical specs. We're just going to do the weights and then go fly. The 20 Pro weighs 112.9 grams. And with the biggest battery that I tested, which is a 720 milliamp sub 250 4S battery, but that is just a sub 250 label. That's a G&B battery. Weighs just a touch over 180 grams. The 25 Mini with the 04 Pro weighs 113.3-ish grams. And with the biggest battery that I tested, the FlyWoo branded 1000 milliamp 3S battery, comes in at just under 180 grams at 179.3-ish. So pretty much the same, right? And for good measure, the light version with the wide angle comes in at 103.12 grams. And with that big battery, it comes in 10 grams lighter, 169.12 grams. And we wouldn't want to miss out, but it does come with 2 sheets of stickers. I think these are just for your batteries. Starting out with the 25 Mini, or the 25 Pro, as it says there at the top of the screen on the DVR or OSD elements. This is the 2.5-inch edition with the 04 Pro. Of course, you can go all the other routes that I mentioned previously. When comparing, not only just to these other quads, but anything that you see on the channel, I do a lot of the same stuff, so I think to a degree the flights get kind of boring. But sometimes I do things that are a little bit different, and I don't think I should always include those flights because it can give the wrong perception that maybe I like something more because I did something that you haven't seen in other flights. It might be a move that I can't pull off regularly, but I was just out having fun and just doing it. So I tend to stick with the basics. But when you're doing your comparison, I think the things you want to look at is prop wash handling, namely with minis when it comes to prop wash handling, flips and rolls, of course. But I think most companies have the PID tuning down for that, to where there's very, very, very little back prop wash, or not prop wash, bounce back, or anything that we really notice there. But when I do see it on minis specifically, it's usually on power loops on the downside, and when you have to kind of bring up the throttle. Also, when I do any sort of high vertical moves, like when I do the punch outs over the house, or I do the punch out like directly above the chimney line, you want to see that 100% throttle and good stable video, as well as when you come down, how you pull out of that. How does that work out? Do you get your prop wash? Oftentimes with these quads, I have to fly them a bunch of times to kind of get the handle on them, because they all fly just a touch differently. But those are the things I think you should watch for. Of course, camera angle is something that I do mention quite a bit. These are adjustable camera angles, but depending upon the camera, your camera angle might be limited. With the larger 04 Pro, I think it's limited to about 20 degrees, because that was something else that I had to kind of get used to. I think I tend to fly 25 or 30. But I couldn't in this case, well, because we're looking at the 04 Pro. Of course, I did fly the 04 Lite. Like many of you, I just prefer the 04 Pro, even with the wide-angle adapters that we're now seeing for the 04 Lites. I'm calling them 04 Lites, but DJI just calls them 04s. So that's something else to kind of be aware of. It's very interesting that they kind of made 2 quads that kind of compete with each other, in my opinion, because I don't know that there's a real compelling reason to have a 2-inch and a 2.5-inch, because they're not going to fly in wildly different environments. I think they're going to fly in very, very similar environments, but they fly, in my opinion, quite differently. And I think that's something that not only will this video hopefully flesh out for everyone who chooses to watch, but it's just something that you have to take note of. Is though they're very similar, one's 4S, one's 3S, and that might give you some perception. But you have a larger prop versus a smaller prop on a higher cell count battery. And, you know, to our veterans, they're either going to go, oh, yeah, well, that makes sense. The odd thing to me was I really didn't expect them to be running the same KV. I thought there to be a little bit of a tweaking in KV, and in my opinion, it made it work. By the way, I am flying the Beta FPV Lava 550 battery in this flight, and it did go for a full 3 minutes and 9 seconds, and you see their battery voltage come up above 3.5 volts per cell, which is, you know, a good healthy ending point as far as that's where I want to end. Let's move on to the 20. Keeping things like for like as far as the visuals go. So this is also the 20. For some reason, FlyWoo sent me 2 of the 2.5s, or 25s, and 1 of the minis. These were all, I think I had to put my 04 Pro in the 25 mini, I think. I can't remember. One of them I had to pull out my own 04 Pro and put it in there, which is fine. It's just, you know, the way this stuff goes. But pay attention, like I said, to the power loops, especially on the downside. That's where I think a big difference in the PID tune between these two really starts to show out. And this flight near the end, you'll see kind of what is some unusual flight stuff, because this is actually relatively early on in my flights, because I was just getting used to it. But unfortunately, this, you know, has to be kind of one of the last flights, because in my crash, I did some damage. That's the other point that I wanted to bring up. When you look at their marketing materials on the FlyWoo website, they tout one as being a bando basher and the other one as being long range, whereas, in my opinion, between the two, I thought the 2.5 handled prop wash better and flew a little bit better, and I also think it's going to fly longer, and I think, in general, 3S batteries are cheaper than 4S batteries. There's going to be a slight difference in that initial punch, I think, between the two, but when it comes to the top end speed that you get on full throttle punches, or if you're full throttle flat, that when it comes to the 3S and 4S, it's going to be very, very, very similar, and maybe even, you know, the 2.5 might come out on top because it's got a slightly bigger prop running the same KV, even though it's on a lower cell count. But that was something that I thought surprised me a little bit, because I thought the Mini 20 was not tuned quite as well, or it just wasn't as capable to handling the prop wash, specifically on the downside of power loops. So if you missed that, go back and watch it if you really want to. But that was one of my takeaways when it comes to the flight. I thought the 2.5 would be the one. If I had both of these in my hand and I was going to keep one of them, say I'm at a flying field with a buddy and they're giving these away, and you can just pick whichever one you want, I would pick the 2.5. I would pick the 2.5 with the 04 Pro. I still, like I said previously, enjoy the 04 Pro view just slightly. The wide camera angles that we're seeing companies like FlyWoo make do help things quite a bit when it comes to the standard 04 Lite, but the 04 Pro is still just a better view in my opinion. And I'm willing to sacrifice that a little additional weight, but on a 2.5 or a 2.5 inch prop, that little additional weight is kind of minimized. Whereas I thought on the 2-inch, because you have that smaller prop, you could kind of feel it. Specifically when you would do at-speed turns with the 2-inch, you kind of feel that you're not quite holding your turn quite as tightly. That was something else that I noticed. And here at the end of the flight, we'll go in for a super big punch, and you're going to see my battery sag way out, and then I'm going to dirt it. Well, I'm going to grass it, I guess. Here we go. We're going to do it here in just a minute. And then I'm gonna, after I hit the grass real hard, then I'm gonna spin up and hit the cement and hit some furniture. Yeah, not good. But the battery is going to come up and recover. See, watch the numbers. I know you can barely see them because of the whiteness behind it. 349. It's gonna come up right before I end the recording. There it is. It's still in good shape. Okay, so at a glance, it looks fine, right? But unfortunately, this motor is seized up. Now, there could be something stuck in here. I have not taken the motor clean off. I've only I've got my little head magnifiers, and I've kind of looked around what I could look just to make sure there wasn't something jammed in there that's causing this motor. See, by the difference, this one's spinning, this one not so much. But it's possible that there's something stuck in there. I don't think so. I think, unfortunately, this motor, even with the motor protection or the arm protection, I think it took a hit, potentially off of the cement or that patio furniture, and it probably misshaped the bell a little bit. Now, we could possibly just get a new bell and be back off to the races. But I thought it was interesting is that I'm not going to say they're wrong, but to me, you know, saying this one's the bando basher and this one's more long range or you know, slow, smoothie, cruisy, or freestyle-y, and this one's, you know, rough and tumble, Not so much. You know, I think we have, you know, such, the designs and everything are so similar that I wouldn't be able to, as a someone who's been flying for a while, I wouldn't be able to say one's one over another. I thought the performance was fairly similar. Again, I like the 2.5 better, and the design is, you know, one's just got larger props. I mean, the bodies are the exact same size. It's just longer arms, but it's exact same design on both of these. So what makes one a bando basher versus the other one not so much? Nothing. Luck, I guess that's one of the things. Maybe luck is on the side of one over the other, but in my case, if that's the differentiator, it was not on the luck on the 20 Mini over here with the 04 Pro. Now that I look at the front ends, this definitely came from FlyWoo Direct. They did send all of these for review, and then this one I must have put my own 04 because FlyWoo got their fancy little ND filter in theirs, not in mine. But they do have the ND filter in the 04 Pro, but that's something else. You know, it does have this platform that we're seeing oftentimes to give smooth video. Wherever you have mounting like this, you could buy this with HDZero if you're into HDZero. I think the HDZero stuff is definitely going to be lighter than the 04 Pros, probably on par or similar to the 04 or 04 Lights. So that's something else to keep in mind. But I guess if you're, you know, in the HDZero ecosystem, then you're probably just going that route if you're actually looking at these. But I again, just to reiterate, I've said it 3 or 4 times during this video, but I know that people skim through videos. I'm not opposed to that. I'm not trying to say you got to watch and hang on every word I might say in the video. I would prefer the 2.5, and I really don't see, as far as the flight spaces, them to be that much different. A 2-inch 4S versus a 2.5 3S. Now, if this 2-inch was 2S and had the weight to, you know, fly well with 2S, then I would say, yeah, they have different flight spaces. But the way they're set up, I think the flight spaces are just about identical. Just looking here at the website, if you like to build, I know we have some people that like to build. I'm seeing the frame. It's the FlyWoo website is kind of weird because they have all these little boxes on there. You just click on various things to find what you're looking at. So it looks like I'm looking at the kit or the frame kit for the 2.5. It's $26.99. That does include the side plates. Of course, you could lighten your load a little bit. These side plates just kind of pop off. These are not prints, at least prints that I can see any print lines. They seem to be plastic molds. They snap off the front and the back, keep debris out of there. Some people like that. Me, myself, I would probably take them off just to save that little bit of weight, just because I prefer performance over aesthetics or keeping grass out of there. But, you know, everybody has to do what they choose to. The price when you get it with the VTX and camera is going to range quite broadly. Let me take a look here. So you can see that, so I see going up to $422.90 for this version, for the 2.5 with the 04 Pro inside. 422. In the moment, that seems high, but maybe I am just having a poor memory moment or something. I'm not doing a comparison on other stuff off the FlyWoo website, but that's another point that I'm just getting cheaper as gas prices and grocery prices continue to go. Maybe the old cheapo in me is really starting to come out. But I will have links down in the video description to wherever I can find. If you are interested in checking out the FireFly 20 or 25 Pros, or with Walksnail, or no Walksnail, HDZero. They do come with HDZero. You can get them without a camera in VTX, or you can just buy the frame itself as well. Those will be down in the video description. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in the comments section below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.